Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Today I'm going to be doing the first video in my 2021 TBR series. So usually every year on my channel I would do a video of like 20 books that I want to read during the year, but this year, because there are just so many books that I want to read and I didn't want to limit myself to only a certain amount of books to avoid the video being super long, I thought I would make it into a series throughout like January, February on my channel, and I would break it down by different genres and do about 10 books per genre. So to kick it off, I thought I would do one of my favorite genres, which is mysteries slash thrillers. I thought I could combine the two since they tend to bleed together a lot anyway, and even some of these books could be considered to be a little bit of horror as well, but I am planning on doing a whole other video of the horror books that I want to read in 2021. So for the most part, these books are mysteries or thrillers, and like I said, I have 10 of them to show you. So I have them all written down on my phone, so if you see me looking down throughout the video, that is why. But also, I am totally contradicting the fact that I keep saying that I want to focus on reading books that I already own, because the majority of the books on this list I don't actually own. So I'm gonna have to put pictures up on the screen. But let's just jump right into it before this video gets too long already. The first book that I have on my list is Darling Rose Gold. So in this book, we're following our main character called Rose Gold Watts, and for the first 18 years of her life, she thought that she had horrible illnesses, and she was like in a wheelchair. She basically lived in the hospital, and her community and her neighbors would try to throw fundraisers for her, and no matter how many doctors, tests, and surgeries would happen, they could never figure out what was wrong with Rose Gold and why she had so many illnesses and medical problems, until it came out that she actually did not have anything wrong with her, and in fact her mother was just a really good liar, and her mother convinced not only Rose Gold but the whole community and doctors and everybody basically that Rose Gold had all of these medical problems that she didn't have. So of course when her mother gets caught with this, she goes to jail for 5 years, and when she comes out of prison, she doesn't really have anywhere to go, so she begs Rose Gold to take her in, and surprisingly she agrees to this. But Rose Gold is not the ill little girl that she was when she last saw her mother, so I believe that this is a book basically about revenge. The thing that really drew me to this book and had me put it on this list was I believe this is either based on or at least very strongly inspired by the true story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who basically lived out this actual scenario. If you haven't heard about that story, you should definitely look it up because it's really sad and disturbing, but it's really worth looking into. So yeah, that's what really drew me to want to pick this book up, and I hope that it's as good as I want it to be. The next book on my list is called Catherine House, and this is a young adult thriller book. This is one of the ones that kind of borders on being a horror book, or at least according to Goodreads it does. So in this book, it is set at a school that is for like higher learning, and in order for students to go to this school, they basically have to leave their whole life behind them. So they can't have any contact for 3 years with their family, their friends. They have to leave all of their clothes behind. They basically have to shut out the whole outside world, so no music or movies or anything like that. And the school is known for their students becoming like some of the greatest authors, artists, presidents, like people in Congress, that kind of thing. So it's known as like this really great school, but you have to sacrifice quite a lot to go there. I don't know a lot about what the actual synopsis of this book is. I realize that I just described to you basically a setting and not really a story, but I think we're just gonna kind of discover the darkness going on in this school through our main character, but I don't know who she is or what she's called. All I know is that I think Books and Lala raved about this on her channel, and I very much value her opinion, so I'm very excited to read this book. Also, the cover is great, but that's not what's important here. Next on my list, we have The Sundown Motel. All that I know about this book is it is set in a motel in upstate New York, and for some reason that is all that I need to know in order to desperately want to read this book. This is one of the ones that is very high up on my list to read in 2021. I don't know why, I just feel like a motel is a very creepy setting, and I think we're following like the person that kind of runs the front desk of the motel, and I'm sure, I never really thought about it before, but I'm sure those people probably see so much shady stuff go down at those places, so I'm really interested to see what this book is about. The next one on my list is actually 2 books by Riley Sager, who I feel like has become like a staple in the thriller genre, but I have not read any of these books. So the first one that I have on my list is The Last Time I Lied. I have no idea what this is about. but I want to read it. So it was on my Goodreads. I thought I'd add it to this list. But then the other one, which is the one that I do really want to get to, is Lock Every Door. In this book, we're following our main character who is apartment sitting, and then I think somebody else in the apartment goes missing, and this leads our main character to do some digging into the dark history of the apartment complex. Similar to the Sundown Motel, I feel like for some reason I'm really attracted to books that are set at like hotels, motels, apartment complexes, just like I guess places where a lot of people are living together but like separately at the same time. I don't know why that really interests me, but it does. So I'm very excited for this. I hope it lives up to my expectation because this author has been very hyped up for me at this point. The next book on my list is One by One by Ruth Ware. So if you have been following my channel for a while, you know that I have read quite a bit of Ruth Ware in my past, but they've been very hit or miss for me. I feel like the first two Ruth Ware books that I read, which was The Woman in Cabin 10 and then The Death of Mrs. Westaway, I really enjoyed them, and The Death of Mrs. Westaway is one of my all-time favorite thriller books. Like, it's a 5 out of 5 star read, which at this point I'm thinking that could be the reason why every book I have read since then has been a disappointment, because that book is just, I hold all of her other books to the standard of The Death of Mrs. Westaway, and none of them have been able to live up to that. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is all of the books I've read since then by her I haven't really liked, but for some reason I'm still drawn to pick up this book. So in this book, it's basically about a company retreat in the mountains, and then due to the weather or snow, they get snowed in, they get stuck there, and they start getting picked off one by one. It actually sounds very similar to a Shari LaPenna book that I read a couple years ago called An Unexpected Guest or An Unwanted Guest, one of those titles. But either way, it has a very similar setting and storyline to this book, but I didn't like that Shari LaPenna book very much, so hopefully I will like this take on that kind of story better. Obviously both of those are very similar to, and then they were done by Agatha Christie, which is one of my all-time favorite mystery books. But yeah, I still want to read this book despite not enjoying some of her past books. Hopefully I'll like this one better. The next book on my list is a book called The One. This is another adult thriller. Obviously I don't know why I keep saying that they're thrillers, because that's what this video is all about, so if they weren't then they wouldn't be on this list. But in this book it's basically about a dating app or a dating site called Match Your DNA, in which they take a sample of your DNA and then match you to your soulmate that is like basically based on your genetic DNA. They would be like made for you, that kind of a soulmate. In this book I believe we follow 5 different perspectives, and we're following like someone who gets matched to somebody else but they're already engaged to somebody. But what really drew me to this book is that I think we're following somebody who gets matched to a serial killer. This book sounds super interesting to me. The only book that I've read with like a similar kind of concept was a young adult dystopian book called Matched, which I didn't really like, but I think this book is going to hopefully do the kind of topic a lot better, because I think that that sort of storyline just works better as a thriller kind of story rather than a dystopian romance, which the other book was. So I'm very excited for this. I have heard kind of mixed reviews about it, but a lot of the negative reviews were from people who DNF'd it, and the very positive reviews were from people saying that in order to get the full kind of impact of the story, you have to read it until the very last page of the book. Like, I've even heard that you have to read past the author's note or something like that in order to get the full impact of this story, which makes me even more excited to read it. So hopefully this book also lives up to the expectation that I have given it in my head. So those are all of the books on my list that I don't own and I'll have to get from either the library or just have to buy them. Now we're going to move on to the 3 books that I do actually own. The first one is The Conspiracy of Us. This is a YA mystery book, I believe, and this was marketed to me a couple years ago as young adult national treasure, and for some reason my brain heard that and just said, yes, that is exactly what I want. So I bought it and then I never read it. So hopefully this year I finally will pick it up, and I don't really know if you would consider National Treasure to be a mystery. Like, I guess you would, but this book is marketed on Goodreads at least as a mystery book, so I thought I would add it to this list. I don't think it's actually like the same plot line of National Treasure, but that's just what I was told. So I don't really actually know what the book is about, but in comparison to National Treasure, that was good enough for me to pick it up. Next, we have The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This is a book that has been on so many TBRs, and I still haven't read it, so hopefully this year will be the year that I do actually read it. And I did actually look up a synopsis for this book, or maybe I also just read The Dust Jacket for once, because in all the TBR videos I've done, I've always just been like, I think it's about a woman who looks through her window, and at this point I feel like that joke is getting a bit old. So I did actually look it up, and this is about Anna Fox, who lives in New York City, and she spies on her neighbors through her window until she sees something that she probably wasn't supposed to see. And that's the gist of what I know about this book. So honestly, the synopsis I gave you didn't get much better to what I was giving you before. But I've heard a lot of good things about this book, so I'm pretty excited for this. The final book on my list is The Mystery Box. This is a collection of short mystery stories. I bought this many years ago, and it has just been sitting on my shelf collecting dust. Probably because, well, there's probably two reasons. One, because I am notorious for not enjoying short story collections. However, if there's ever to be a short story collection that I would enjoy, it would be a collection of either mystery, thriller, or horror short stories. So the other reason I think I have been putting off picking this up is because I have never heard of any of the authors in here. I think if I was more familiar with some of the people's work, I would be more tempted to pick the anthology up, but because I've never heard of any of them, because frankly, most of the books on this list were thrillers, so that's mainly what I read. I don't actually read a lot of adult mystery books, and so that's probably why I'm not really familiar with any of these people, but I should really pick it up because maybe it will introduce me to some new mystery authors. So yeah, hopefully this will be the year I finally read it. Either way, those are all of the books on my mystery thriller TBR for 2021. If you have read any of these books, leave me a comment down below and let me know which ones you think that I should prioritize on this list. Also, if there are any other ones that you think I would enjoy, leave me a comment down below. I'm always looking for more recommendations of books that I should read. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!